the commercial, financial, and cultural capital of the UK, and honestly maybe all of Europe, it's no surprise that London has 5 major international airports to service its residents and visitors, which is awesome, but also can seem super confusing if it's your first time visiting London. As you're planning your trip, choosing the best airport in London is essential for starting off your trip right. So where are all these airports located? You can see on the map we have Heathrow in the west, Stansted in the north, Luton in the northeast, London City in the east, and Gatwick in the south. And there are many things to consider when picking which airport to fly in and out of, including price and ease of public transportation to the city center. So let's take a look at each airport individually to help you make your choice. First up, we have the biggest one, Heathrow, airport code LHR. This is the hub of British Airways, and if you're flying into London from outside of Europe, chances are you will be flying into Heathrow. This airport is best if you're staying in central London, West London, or West London, but with the Elizabeth line opening in 2022, it's actually very well connected to all parts of London now, which is great. Besides the Elizabeth line, the other public transport option where you can just use tap to pay, meaning you don't need to purchase a ticket, is the Piccadilly line. You can see both of these lines on the screen now. Elizabeth is purple and Piccadilly is navy blue, so it's very easy to get to most places in London directly from any terminal in Heathrow for cheap and pretty quick. It's probably about 40 minutes to get into Zone 1 from Heathrow. There's also the Heathrow Express that is a direct train from Heathrow to Paddington, which gets you there in only 15 minutes, but it will cost you. It's £25 one way or £37 round trip. Whereas if you do the tap to pay option, obviously depending on how far you're going, I usually go to Zone 2 because that's where I live. That cost me about £7. So it's a huge difference. Heathrow is one of only 2 London airports that are actually inside London. The other is London City, which means if for some reason you're arriving in the middle of the night or there's a train strike, which happens more often than you think here in London, an Uber into the city center isn't terribly priced compared to Stansted or Luton, which would be over £100. One con about Heathrow though is that it doesn't have any budget airlines here. So if you're coming from mainland Europe or going there next, flights are usually way more expensive than if you were to get a budget airline flight like Ryanair, EasyJet, or Wizz Air. So if I'm being completely honest, the only time I've used Heathrow in about 9 months of living here in London is flying to and from my home back in LA. Other than that, even though it's the easiest airport to get to by public transportation, the lack of budget flights always leads me to buying flights that leave out of other airports. Like my personal favorite, Gatwick in the south, airport code LGW. This airport is perfect if you're staying in South London, North London, or even Brighton down on the south coast of England. You cannot take London public transportation from this airport, but it is connected by multiple train companies like the Gatwick Express, Thameslink, and Southern Rail. It's only about 25 minutes on the train to Clapham Junction, which is in South London, 35 minutes to both London Victoria and London Bridge, which are in Central London, and about an hour to King's Cross in Northern London. So if your hotel isn't near any of these train stations, no worries. They all have underground or overground options that you can hop on to get to where you need to be from there. You can either buy a train ticket in advance on the Trainline app, or you can simply use tap to pay like you would on any London transport option like the bus or the tube. Gatwick is the hub for EasyJet, one of Europe's biggest budget airlines, so there are always tons of really cheap flights that leave out of here, which makes it a really great option for any European travel after you're done visiting London. It's also a small airport with only 2 terminals, north and south, so you don't need to get to the airport too early and deal with craziness, which is also something I really like about it. Next, we'll talk about Stansted in the north, airport code STN. This airport is perfect if you're staying in East London, Cambridge, or Norfolk. The only train to and from this airport is the Stansted Express from London Liverpool Street Station, but it can be quite pricey at around £20 one way for a ticket. Now, if you book in advance and have a rail card, which I go into depth about what a rail card is and how to download it in the beginning of this video, I've gotten tickets for as cheap as £22 round trip, which isn't bad, but if you buy it right then and there, it will be expensive, and you cannot use tap to pay here. You do have to buy a train ticket specifically for the Stansted Express. It takes about 50 minutes from London Liverpool Street to Stansted, so it's really not terrible in time if you're nearby to Liverpool Street and you can just walk from the station or take the tube for a few stops. Stansted is the hub for the cheapest airline in Europe, Ryanair, so I find myself flying out of here quite a bit since the flights are just always the cheapest, but you do want to take into consideration how expensive the Stansted Express is, how much time it'll take you to get here. For me, it's about an hour longer than going to Heathrow or Gatwick, and on top of that, also the timing of the flight. There tend to be a ton of super cheap flights at 6 a.m. or past 11 p.m., but the train only starts running at 4:30 a.m., so you'd be cutting it real close if you booked a 6 a.m. flight. So just know you'll probably see the cheapest flights out of Ryanair in Stansted, but take all things into consideration before booking. Next, we have Luton in the Northeast, airport code LTN. This is best for people staying in North or Central London, as you can get to St. Pancras Station in about 35 to 45-ish minutes. These train prices can be just as expensive as the Stansted Express at about £20 one way, but the difference is that there are multiple train companies that go to Luton, so you do have a lot more options to choose from. Same thing as I said for Stansted, if you have a rail card, you can get tickets for about £20 round trip, which isn't bad. Luton is the hub for Wizz Air, another major budget airline in Europe. It's definitely not as big as Ryanair or EasyJet, but it is big enough, so you can find some very affordable flight options up at this airport. I've personally flown out of all three of these options, and I would say EasyJet is my favorite, Ryanair is in the middle, and Wizz Air is probably my least favorite, but Ryanair has the most flight options all around Europe and usually for the cheapest prices. But just know that any budget airline you go on, you will not get a carry-on bag included, only a personal item that goes under the seat, which has way smaller dimensions than you'd be used to in the States, and they're actually really strict about it. So either bring a very small bag and practice minimalism, or you'll have to pay for a carry-on or checked bag. If you need some tips on how to pack your personal item in the best way to take advantage of every single inch of space, check out this video. And last but not least, we have the only airport that I have not used yet, the London City Airport, which is best if you're staying in Canary Wharf, Greenwich, or Inner East London. London City Airport is connected by public transport, which is great. You don't need to buy a train ticket, you just tap to pay when you get on and off the DLR line, which is an overground train. It'll take you directly to London City Centre to Bank Station in about 25 minutes. As far as I know, there are no budget airlines that fly out of here, or if they do, it's very, very minimal, which is why I haven't used it yet, because the flights are quite pricey. A lot of British Airways, KLM, and Swiss Air flights, but it is very conveniently located and super easy and quick to get to the city center. Now that we've covered a little bit about each airport and how to get to London City Center from there, let's talk about a few essential things that you should know about all of the London airports. First is that lines at passport control in London are extremely fast, like way faster than coming into the US as far as I've experienced from abroad. They have e-gates for all UK, EU, US, Canadian, Australian, and a few other nationalities as well, where you just scan your passport and walk through in a matter of minutes. I don't think I've ever waited longer than like 7 or 8 minutes at passport control, which is awesome. I'm from LA, and the line is typically always about an hour or just over an hour, and after I came back for my 6-month backpacking trip in South America, we flew into Miami and we waited for over 3 hours in the passport control line. It was insane. So it's amazing to see how quick and efficient it is here in London. Next, we're going to talk about exiting the UK, because they require you to take out all your liquids and put them in a provided plastic bag, which is very small. All your liquids must fit into this one bag, or they throw away the items that don't fit in there. I've never seen a place enforce this as strictly as London does. It almost makes no sense to buy a cute toiletry bag and use it for your travels, because you have to take everything out and put it in this bag anyways. I keep hearing that they're gonna get rid of this rule soon, but I have no idea when that will be. So if you have more insight on that, please let me know down in the comments, because I would love to stop doing that because it's just so annoying. You also have to take out your laptop, as you do in most airports, but you don't have to take off your shoes, which is really nice because you usually do in all major US airports. If you're browsing for flights and you see a connecting flight at another London airport, I would strongly encourage you not to book that flight. As you saw earlier in this video, the airports are spread out all around the outer areas of London and designed to bring people into the city center, not from one airport to the other. So you'll have to take a train into the city center, connect to the right train station, and then head back out to the next airport, which will be time consuming and expensive. The only direct airport connections are a bus between Heathrow and Gatwick that runs once per hour, and a bus between Luton and Stansted that runs every 2 hours. Now that you're an expert on the airports in London, make sure you're an expert on London itself by using this 3-day itinerary that will make sure you see as much as you possibly can in a short amount of time.